place where no one follows me. I walk alone. What is up, everybody? Ladies and gentlemen, we are here live on episode number 3. Yes, episode number 3 of PWP Nation's World of Wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be joined tonight with members of the PWP Nation team. Hopefully Toph will be here. Hopefully we'll jump on here later. And if you want in on the show, if you want to appear on World of Wrestling, please hit me up in the DMs on Twitter at Alletto or at PWP Nation. DM us. Let us know if you want to be on the show. You want to talk about some wrestling topics, whatever you want to talk about. Let's do it. Let's do it, because it's all about giving people opportunity, having open discussions and discourse, civil discourse about the wrestling business and everything else that it has to offer to us. And what I'm doing here is something that not a lot of wrestling creators are doing, and we're talking about all kinds of topics, including how to better yourself and make money. All right, we'll be talking about financials sometimes, Bitcoin, trading cards, NFTs. Maybe we'll talk about that. We'll get crazy. We'll talk about that kind of stuff. We'll also talk about some different topics relating to current world events, politics, maybe music, maybe baseball or basketball or something else out there that our fans want to talk about. You know, we want to open up Pandora's box. So it's going to be fun. Please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button if you get a chance. We need the support. We would love the help. I got the big, tall glass of water featuring the New York Giants Super Bowl champions of 2012. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah, it tastes good. So let's jump right into it. The ratings have come out. The Wednesday Night War was won this week once again by All Elite Wrestling. However, the number was a little bit shocking. Number was just a little bit shocking. A lot of people believed that we would see bigger numbers from AEW, from NXT, due to their stacked shows and their big announcements and all that hyperbole. So let's jump over to Twitter and our old buddy. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is, Mr. Brian Alvarez from the Wrestling Observer. Yeah, let's see what Brian Alvarez has to say about the ratings. There's his book. Of course, you know, this person probably has me blocked. Not surprising. Most people do. Or he deleted his tweet. But here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Here are the ratings for last night. Simply put, many people were expecting a higher number. Maybe for both shows, maybe for one or the other. Combined, the rating is pretty good. If you think about it, it was like 1.5 million, right? Around 1.5 million would be the rating if combined. So you're looking at a number that needs to be built on. Now, what we saw the other night coming off of a pay-per-view has to be a little bit disappointing for AEW because they dropped week over week. And you always want to build your audience. You always want to see an increase in the numbers. In this specific case, though, you also had a really good NXT show. I believe there was probably a lot of flipping back and forth last night. I also believe a lot of people are consuming content differently than they ever have before. To put this into perspective, however, let's talk a little bit about one of the biggest ratings phenomenons that I have ever seen in my entire life. And we can compare, and it shows you in context just how small this wrestling audience is. And give me 1 second to load this up, and I will show you via screen share exactly what I'm talking about here tonight. Let me adjust this. I'm going to get myself a nice camera soon. Nice camera, have a nice little setup. Camera will be like over there, so I don't have to worry about it being too close. And we'll make this bigger. We're gonna have some stuff on the wall. It's gonna be real nice. It's coming soon. It's coming soon to the channel. We're gonna get all fancy. Soon. You know, we're getting all fancied up. But it's a slow build. It's gonna take a while, brother. Yeah, it's gonna take a while. Here we go. Oh, you stupid freaking Los Angeles Times, man. All right. So anyway, you can see it. I will not disable my ad blocker, but Oprah Winfrey's interview with Meghan and Harry pulls in 17.1 million viewers. And let's throw Toph onto the stream here. Toph, bro, I am,
Yo.
man. How you doing, dude?
Hey, I'm doing good. What's up? It's getting a little hot down here, but I'm doing good.
Ah, dude, I wish I could say the same. I'm in my basement and it's freezing. The in New Jersey, it gets
Mm-hmm.
super cold out quick. So, all right, here's what we're looking at. I'm already in the middle of it, Toph. I'm comparing the ratings of wrestling. I got a fruit fly in here. It's pissing me off.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, comparing the wrestling ratings to this interview with Oprah the other night on mainstream television. You're looking at the number. You're seeing 17.1 million viewers to listen to. Yeah, I think I got him that time. Probably not. The mainstream viewers are listening to Meghan and Harry. 17.1 million. Now you put that against AEW and NXT combined for just around 1.5 million. You're talking a fraction of the audience, the mainstream kind of audience, the people that these are the people who are actually paying attention to what happens in the mainstream. Like, let's just be honest, man, because I don't know what any of this stuff is about. I've heard a little bit about it, of course, it's unavoidable, but I don't know what any of this stuff's about. And I guarantee you that most of these people have no idea what AEW or NXT is. So here's where what I'm kind of getting at here, brother, is how does wrestling Wednesday night specifically, because this is the night we're really focused on today. How does wrestling infiltrate that 17.1 million people that actually spent time listening to those three mainstream shills talk about world events or whatever they even talked? I don't even know what they talked about. How do we get the wrestling audience to kind of become more mainstream?
Hmm. It's hard, man. Sometimes I think about it myself. The wrestling world seems to go through, I guess you can say, uh, periods where it's relevant and then periods when it's not. Like, I was a kid, but I understand that apparently, like, okay, like I've listened to documentaries before, and it seems like a lot of wrestlers that were, transitioning from the late 80s to early 90s, like that 89, 90, 91. The general gist I get is that after Hogan Warrior, that was WrestleMania 6, right? Was that
Mm-hmm.
1990? Right.
1990, yeah.
Right. I think Brett even said himself, I don't know like what document it was. I think Brett said like after Hogan Warrior, the consensus was like that was the peak, because I think like after that, like when they went into 91, that was like when the ratings dipped a little bit, the live events dipped, and a lot of the wrestlers that were around at that point, they thought like that was the it. Like they thought that like the peak of wrestling was there, like that the better days were behind them. And then you go into like 94, 95, 96, and that was when things were like at an all-time low where it was so bad WWF almost went bankrupt. But then somewhere around like late 96, early 97, there was kind of a turnaround and things got like cool and edgy and hip. And then it was the whole like Dennis Rodman and Mike Tyson. And all of a sudden it was like the next big boom, the next wrestling explosion happened. And the crazy thing about the Attitude Era is that it really wasn't that long when you compare it to other eras. It was like 5 years, maybe,
Yeah.
barely even that. It wasn't even that long, because some people like to count 2002 and 2003, and it's like no, like the Attitude Era died the night Austin turned heel. As far as I'm concerned, like it died the night of WrestleMania 17. Like that was the end. So as far as like how do you get mainstream people to watch, I think the big thing would be, for starters, um, like this is not like just WWE. Like this is just like wrestling as a whole. For starters, like nobody is larger than life anymore. Like
Yeah.
none of the wrestlers like look like all wrestling, all companies. Like how many dudes do you see, and how many like 13, 14, like when I was a kid, right? Because you're older than me slightly, but like when I was a kid, when I was in middle school, like when I saw people like The Rock, Stone Cold, Goldberg, you see guys like that, and you're like, I want to be that guy. You know,
Yeah.
you don't really see that anymore. I can probably count like on one hand, legitimately, how many wrestlers you see on wrestling today, and I can see like a 13-year-old kid being like, I want to be that guy. Like like the whole stuff with Roman, like the stuff with Roman and Paul Heyman, like just kind of like the mobster, where he's just kind of sitting there and like Heyman's talking to him and like Uso's talking to him. I could see like I could see like a 13-year-old kid being like, that guy's cool. I want to be him. So like there's no larger than life superstars anymore that make a casual that knows nothing about wrestling want to invest time to make them watch it weekly. And then when we were teenagers, there was a lot of celebrity involvement, like celebrities that everyone knew. Like, okay, like Bad Bunny is on WWE. Bad Bunny is really good, like in the music world, but he's not like a figure that like the people outside of the music world would know, and that might offend some people. But like during the Attitude Era,
it's true though, dude. It's true. Right, you're 100%.
Everyone knew who Dennis Rodman was. Everyone knew who Mike Tyson was. Like, even if you don't watch basketball, even if you don't watch boxing, you knew who they were. Like, if you're at a grocery store, you've seen their picture before. You've seen an ad of them. You've seen a commercial about them. So, like, where are those, like, celebrities where, like, the whole world is going to go out their way to watch this guy? Like, they're watching Saturday Night Live, or they're watching, I don't know, some talk show, Colbert or whatever, and they see this larger-than-life celebrity guy plug Raw or plug AEW and say, you know what, I'm going to watch that. Like, you don't really see that either. It's just really hard to put it on one thing in particular. I think that where we're at right now, just at this point, not just like with like WWE, just in general, like this is just wrestling as a whole. And this is like one of the things I really hate. I hate it when people use the term IWC in 2021, because that implies there's a hardcore fan base. Like, dude, at this point, it's just the hardcores watching. Everybody else is dipped at this point in time. Like, nobody else is watching, you know? And not to mention, the internet is used to promote stories. Like, all companies do it now. So, like, literally, if you're using YouTube, if you're using Twitter, if you're using Twitch, if you're using Instagram, like, you're part of the IWC, so it's whatever. I just think that right now we're at one of those dip periods where I don't think wrestling's dying per se. I just think for whatever reason, the casual fan at this particular period is just not interested in watching. But I've been ranting for a bit, but I would say the main thing though, like gun to head, what's the main thing? There's no larger than life wrestlers, superstars that I think, in my opinion, that a kid could look at and be like, I want to be like that guy, or just like an absolute casual that just knows nothing about wrestling, but they see like a Rock, they see an Austin, a Goldberg, and they're just completely fascinated by like whatever. Like, say what you want about Brock Lesnar, he's a very fascinating person to look at. Like, I think one time, Taz called him a specimen one time. Like, that's such a weird word, you don't want, but that's like, that really describes Brock, because when you see Brock, you're like, how does he look like that? How did he get like that?
Yeah.
Like, where does he come from? Like, what does he do? Like, you don't see anyone like that, like in wrestling anymore. I'm trying to think of the last act that I think was a draw to casuals, and this might be a hot take. I think the last act that casuals liked was probably Enzo and Cass, because when Enzo and Cass were doing their thing, a lot of casuals, like, and the more urban world, like people that watch BET, people that watch MTV, because, you know, like on YouTube, there's like, I don't know if this makes sense. There's like YouTube clips where you can like look at different people like freestyling and battle rapping and stuff like that. And if you look at enough of that, you'll see like related tabs and stuff. Like, there's a lot of times where Enzo would like do kind of raps, kind of stuff like that. I think Enzo and Cass were the last act that was kind of, I'm not going to say they were on the level of an Attitude Era, but they were a draw. Enzo and Cass were a draw. I mean, say what you want about him. When Enzo was Cruiserweight champion, when he was on 205 Live, I remember their viewership went up when he was there. There. And people were shitting on Enzo. They're like, oh, man, he's not a wrestler. It's like, dude, he's bringing the views. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Like, nobody cared about these other dudes. Like, he brought the views. So...
For sure. And he's the type of guy that if he wants to go back, I'm sure he's going to be able to go back at some point in the future. I don't think we've seen the last of Enzo, but I just wanted to jump back into these ratings for a minute, because I think you brought up some great points. One thing that's interesting is you did bring up the celebrities that everybody knows. And last week on on AEW, we had Shaquille O'Neal. And pretty much everybody knows Shaquille O'Neal. The problem is that Shaquille O'Neal didn't really go above and beyond promoting it outside the scope of his obligations to TNT. It was a TNT gig for Shaq. That's all it was. It was a TNT gig, him working with AEW, and he didn't have any obligation to go on his social media and talk a lot about it or really go above and beyond the call of duty to get more of that casual viewership to pay attention. He wasn't having a lot of his celebrity friends talk about it. I don't think it had the kind of buzz that AEW wanted it to have because their ratings went down. And I don't know if that's indicative of that specific moment in AEW. And I want to give Fightful credit for this report that I'm on right now. It is Fightful.com. But NXT held steady. NXT barely even dropped at all. Overall, AEW won still. AEW is still the winner here. But we had some moments on NXT. Here's Shotzi Blackheart, who I am a absolute huge fan of. And Ember Moon, they became the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions just after the belts were kind of handed to Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. I almost said Renee like Gonzaga. I don't know what I'm thinking. And then we got over on AEW Dynamite, the Fallout, this Sunday's Revolution pay-per-view. Christian Cage also debuted, confronting Kenny Omega. You would think they'd pop a bigger number. I don't know. I think we were talking about this in the chat a little bit that we have, and John was kind of giving them a hard time for it. And you would think with Christian on the show, the buzz surrounding it, I don't want to play that, but you would think that it would have been a little bit of a bigger number. And then, of course, this angle was absolutely tremendous. Let's talk about this while we're on it. The Inner Circle, and, can I play this? I might be able to play like a second of it if we're talking. Let me see. So I'll make sure I'm a little weird about it. But, at this point in the clip, MJF is basically, backing down from the Inner Circle. And this group, Cash Wheeler, Dax Hardwood, Tully Blanchard, Wardlow, because I was wondering why Wardlow wasn't out there, okay? I think he was conspicuous by his absence, I believe, being at the ring with MJF. That's something I noticed. I'm sure you noticed it as well. Like, where the fuck is Wardlow? You got MJF out there with no Wardlow?
What I thought was off was at Revolution when they did the tag team battle royale, every team was in there except FTR. That was what I noticed. And I figured that was I don't know if you noticed that. When I noticed that FTR wasn't in that, I'm like, something's going to go down the following Wednesday, which it did happen. That was the first tip off. And then the second tip off was, as you said, when MJF came out there, Wardlow was not with him, which was the second tip off. So,
yeah, for a moment, I was like, this is dope as hell, because when Sammy Guevara came out, we kind of knew he was turning babyface. That was obvious. Just being old school wrestling fans, we saw that coming. But the kind of double turn that took place here, they didn't go down. They did a double swerve, right? They swerved us. We kind of figured that MJF would be trying to take over the Inner Circle. They made that so obvious. We knew that they were going down that road. But what we didn't know is this faction that he had behind him, and that this faction looks like just something to I don't know, be taken seriously. What's your take on this new faction?
Yeah, there have been like hints here and there, not recently, but I remember like in that halfway point of 2020, there have been some hints that there was going to be like some type of Horseman faction. Because when FTR came in, I don't know if you remember that segment where like when they signed the contract, Arn Anderson was with them, which I thought was interesting, and he was like with Cody. And I think like there was like one interview he did with Cody where Cody was like doing his fingers like this or whatever. And then like when FTR was with Tully, Spears just kind of disappeared because it's like, where's Spears? Like, where did he go? He just vanished. Where, I think it was clear that, okay, they're taking Spears off TV because they're saving him for something and they were just kind of waiting for it. So there have been teases of like a Horseman type thing. Really what fans have been debating was if there was going to be a Horseman thing, like we knew, okay, FTR is going to be the tag team. Tully is going to be like the manager. Spears, I guess, would be kind of like the enforcer. So really what it came down to is who's going to be the Flair. That was really like what fans were kind of like debating. Because at the time, Cody's just so flip-floppity. Sometimes he comes off as a face. Sometimes like he'll do push-ups mid-match like a heel. At the time, they were kind of slowly kind of burning the Kenny heel turn. He hadn't turned full heel yet. Like, because Kenny, he can dress the part. He can dress when he gets into suits, he can dress the part. Some were thinking maybe they'll turn Hangman. And then some were even saying they were going to get Nick Aldis from NWA. And I think Nick Aldis definitely could have made it work, but he's just completely dedicated to the NWA, which I understand. So ultimately, they chose MJF, which wouldn't have been my first choice. I think MJF's the kind of heel where he's fine by himself, but if you want to make him this part of this group, that's fine. I thought the segment was cool. It legit came off like something you would have seen from like WCW, like in 1996 or something. You know, like the double swerve thing you kind of mentioned. You remember one of my favorite ones was when the NWO was destroying everybody and the Giant came out and you thought he was there to save, but then like he choke slammed everybody else and he joined the NWO. Like that was cool. Yeah, that was cool. That was like a cool because when the Giant did that, that made the Dungeon and the Horsemen de facto faces, which was weird. But that's just how over the NWO were as heels. So, yeah, this was a cool segment. I liked it. It was different.
Yeah, totally, man. I'm with you 100% on that because, look, anything that can get my creative juices flowing in pro wrestling gets me pumped up. Like, I love NXT as well. I thought NXT put on a great show last night. And what they've been doing as far as their storytelling is concerned has just been so crisp and clean with the Undisputed Era breaking up. And last night with Kyle O'Reilly, they have these moments that are almost sometimes too clean and come off too staged, too Hollywood production style. You know what I mean? Whereas, and AEW does it too, of course, with their cinematic matches. But like last night, Kyle O'Reilly reaches down and grabs the Undisputed Era armband off Adam Cole and rips it off. You know, that symbolism type stuff. And Karrion Kross is standing behind Finn Balor to close out the show. Finn Balor's like, "Where have you been? Why is it taking so long?" or something like that. That's the kind of stuff that NXT really excels at. Their production, the attention to little details. But then you look at AEW and they feel more like an actual wrestling promotion. Like they feel like more of a old school kind of wrestling promotion with a mix of Japanese kind of style and especially with their women's division. You know, like I think it's very interesting that they have this female wrestler who I just found out about, Maki Ito, and she sings before her matches. Like that's just cool, different outside of the box stuff, especially her singing while everybody else is fighting last night. I thought that was some brilliant stuff, man. But let's pivot to our next story. And this story is a little bit of a different vibe here on the show. And this is WWE facing trademark trouble with Dean Ambrose due to lack of written consent from Jon Moxley. Of course, we can touch on this. This was, since we're talking about the Wednesday Night Wars anyway, this segment was awesome to me. Just as like an old school independent wrestling fan, you're looking at Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley literally mocking the pay-per-view the other night, but also giving you a detailed explanation of exactly why Eddie Kingston acted the way he did after the pyrotechnics went off. So give me your real quick before we go to this story about WWE trademarks. Tell us about this, bro. What do you think of this alliance between Moxley and Eddie Kingston?
It came off to me like a promo you would have seen in ECW. That's what I miss about ECW, because ECW, like, wrestlers would be doing these promos like in these random locations. Like I remember one time New Jack did a promo like in a subway station, not like the restaurant, but like an actual like subway. I have another memory of Mick Foley doing like a promo like just in this random dark yard somewhere. Like you would see that a lot in ECW. Just I don't know. It's like just random locations. I miss that.
100%.
I miss that, like in wrestling. Like no company has ever done that since then. I don't know why.
AEW's doing a lot of that kind of stuff. You'll see like Darby Allin in like some kind of remote location, or I know they were doing with Jake the Snake Roberts and Lance, what's his name? What's his name? Lance Archer.
Lance Archer. Yeah.
Lance Archer. They were doing that with him for a while. They do that kind of outside the box stuff, and that's exactly what this was. I loved it. I marked out for it. I loved Eddie Kingston's excuse about anxiety being the issue. And also they built off of this because later in the show, you had Kenny Omega acting like a jackass. He interrupted Christian's time on the show and he's doing his thing. He's one of the best heels in wrestling right now. And then Eddie Kingston comes out. He is such a likable babyface. It's unbelievable. And they set the freaking stage for this for months in advance. So if you look at AEW's attention to long-term storytelling and how they're able to move as the show goes, as the storylines go, they can go in different directions and whatnot, and they have different possibilities, stuff that they probably debate with each other in their booking meetings. bro, it just feels like they have the next year of television already set to go. Whereas NXT and Raw and SmackDown does not feel like that at all. AEW, we're kind of seeing here what they've shifted everything, bro. Now we have Eddie Kingston as a babyface. Now we have the Inner Circle as babyfaces. Now we have this new faction. The entire thing has been shifted completely from where it was 6 months ago, and that's something that we just don't see in the other organization.
This is basically what it is. This is basically what it is, and unfortunately, John's not here. I guess he's busy because if he was, he'd be triggered. What it is AEW has long-term storytelling. NXT and WWE in general, they just throw shit at the wall to see what sticks, and people who prefer that brand, like they just love the in ring that much. Like no one's doubting the in ring. Like the in ring is really good, but good in ring is not what promotes interest. What promotes interest is characters, storytelling, that type of stuff. Like I remember last year, so many people, and there's still some people who still haven't figured this out. Like the big criticism about AEW last year was like, where's the cleaner? Like where's the Kenny from like New Japan? Everybody kept saying that, and it was so stupid because people were mad that Kenny was taking a back seat, and it's like, dude, because Kenny's taking a back seat, other people are getting over. Hangman was getting over. Pac was getting over. The Death Triangle was getting over before COVID hit. He was taking a back seat because he was helping others get over. So that way, when Kenny finally does turn heel, and when he finally does become the guy who you expect him to be, like we don't know when, but when Kenny drops that belt, it's going to be the Hangman. No one else. It's going to be Hangman that beats him, and that's long-term storytelling. You don't see stuff like that in WWE or NXT anymore.
And that's the key point real quick, Toph. That's the key point is anymore. You don't see that kind of storytelling anymore. And this is a situation where you have exactly that. And I do believe, man, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but we'll go a little deeper into this topic. I do believe that WWE has a similar plan in place for Roman Reigns. I think they actually have a plan here. I just have no idea what the hell it is. And I think I have the feeling that Roman Reigns is going to hold on to the WWE. What does he have? Which one does he have? I don't even know which one he has anymore.
The
Universal, right?
Universal title.
Yeah, the Universal Championship. He is going to hold on to that thing for literally as long as he wants to. And I think he's going to go over 500 days. I think they're going to push him past that CM Punk 434 mark. I think that's their long-term story plan on SmackDown. But dude, that point you just made, man, I want you to elaborate on this. That point you just made about Adam Page being the one to eventually defeat Kenny Omega, that's something that I didn't even think about. And considering the fact that he was in the first AEW championship match and the storytelling and how they're building him as this super likable babyface, just slowly, letting it marinate, knowing what they have, dude. You're right, man. This is some great storytelling. I thank you for actually sharing that, bro. That's awesome.
Yeah, because when AEW started, he was the odd guy out. Everybody from the Elite was established except him. Everyone knew the Young Bucks, the best tag team in the world. I mean, you could be mad at that, but that's the reality of it. Everyone knows Kenny as the cleaner. Everyone knows Cody from WWE. He was, he basically single-handedly revived Ring of Honor before he left. Marty may not have been like a big name, but Marty was, a big name in the UK. He was a big name internationally. He has been IWGP Junior Champion. He's been Ring of Honor TV Champion. He had the whole Villain Club. I believe, before the whole Me Too thing happened, Marty was consistently one of the best merch sellers, because of the whole villain thing, a big merch seller thing. Everybody from the Elite was established except Hangman. It was like, who's Hangman? Who is this guy? Because I remember a lot of people, when BTE was blowing up, a lot of folks were saying Hangman's getting a free ride because he didn't really have a character. Like he was just kind of there. He didn't really have a character. His name was Adam Page, and then when Adam Cole joined the Bullet Club, you can't have two Adams. So it's like, okay, we got to give him a name. Okay, let's call him Hangman. Why? I don't know. Just give him a name. There was never really an explanation for it. So when Kenny teamed with him, that wasn't just, I'm going to team with Hangman. No, that was him teaming with Hangman to help get him over. And then they were doing the whole drinking thing, where he was drinking beer and the whole nervous millennial thing. that was Kenny helping him get over. And the storytelling was great because the story made you think that Hangman was going to turn, but then Kenny turned, and if this was WWE, they still would have turned Hangman. But what AEW did was they called an audible because they saw how over Hangman was getting. They were like, wait a minute, instead of turning Hangman, let's turn Kenny instead. And it sucks because when he was really, really starting to get reactions, COVID hit. You know, like, it's depressing, but like, go back and look at some of those matches he had, like at the beginning of 2020. He was getting like super insane, like overreactions. Like, he was getting, it's easy to forget how over certain people were because we've been without fans, like true arenas packed with thousands and thousands of people. It's easy to forget how over some folks really were before COVID hit. You know, I think that's going to be like that's like the one part of WrestleMania I'm looking forward to is I'm looking forward to seeing a WWE show with fans because it's been so long. It's hard to dictate how over some people really are because internet over doesn't translate to on TV over. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but yeah, you know,
it makes sense, dude. Yeah. And like when you're in the Thunderdome, they're directing you the entire time. You've heard those clips, right? They'll be like, here comes Kevin Owens. Everybody cheer. Everybody cheer. And they'll be like, here comes Roman. Boos. Everybody boos. Like that to me is the corniest shit ever. And if they're not getting, and here's the thing about the Thunderdome, they can put anybody on those screens that they want who has ever been on those screens before. They can literally like pick their perfect audience. They could have an employee. This is what WWE could actually do, bro. They could have some jabroni employee, some absolute jobber that sits around and edits video all day or does some other pointless crap, right? And they could be like, yo, dude, we want you to look through these 10,000 Thunderdome fans, and we want you to pick the best 500 to put on the Thunderdome screens, brother. And that's your job. You have to pick the best 500. Then you could, and WWE can create their criteria, you know, whatever, ethnicity. Oh, we need out of the 500, we need 200 black people. We need 100 Mexican people. We need 50 Asian people. You know, that's what they can do. And they can do that whenever they want. It is so bizarre. Whereas if you actually go to a wrestling show, which I've been to many in many different states, you're going to go to certain wrestling shows where you're not going to see a lot of minorities. You're going to see all white people. And sometimes we go to wrestling shows where it's mostly black people. I've been to those too. And you can go to wrestling shows where there's a lot of Asian people for some reason because Shinsuke Nakamura is in town or whoever. Like, WWE's manipulation of their audience during this entire freaking dystopian nightmare that we're in is absolutely insane. And a lot of this has just occurred to me now. And, also, you're right, Toph. You're right. When the audiences come back, I am advocating for, on Twitter and officially all over the internet, for us to go back to the arenas full force like never before. I am spending so much money on tickets when things start to open. I'm going to concerts, comedy shows, wrestling shows. I'm going to everything. You know why? Because they've proven how easy it is to take it all away with the snap of a finger. So I'm going to everything. Once we're back, I'm going to everything, brother. I'm not pulling any punches. I'm going to every single event I possibly can. Forget about it. Here we go. Over to wrestlingheadlines.com. See how quickly I can pivot? That's what a salesman can do, man. So here we go. Wrestling headlines. Anna Jay, post photo after shoulder surgery. Yeah, maybe we can look at that. What do you want me to dive into here, Toph? Pick an article, man. We got ROH announces new title match. We've got original plans for the WWE NXT Women's Tag Team titles. We've got the international signings reportedly headed to the WWE Performance Center. And we already spoke about the big decrease. So screw that. Pick an article, bro. What are we going to look at?
Well, what's the Ring of Honor one day? We haven't talked about them yet. What are they up to? They got a big show coming?
Let's see. Looks like they have the 19th anniversary event. Let me just say something real quick. 19 years of Ring of Honor is wild to me, bro. 2002, bro. I remember it like it was yesterday. Ring of Honor rose from the ashes, brother, of WCW and ECW, mostly ECW though, because honestly, here's the deal. Since we're heading towards the 19th anniversary, the whole idea for Ring of Honor literally rose out of the ashes of ECW. Yeah. It was Rob Feinstein, who had a tape company that published ECW VHS tapes, needed a promotion to sell tapes now because ECW was done. So what did he do? He got together some of his buddies, Gabe Sapolsky, who now works for the WWE backstage at NXT, who is also the former Ring of Honor booker and also the former Evolve owner and everything. And a couple other people, Doug something. I cannot remember his last name. I feel bad. I'm not going to look it up, but I can't remember his last name, Doug something. And he passed away, unfortunately, at an early age. But 19 years ago, man. Like, I don't even know what I was getting at there. Just kind of giving some history. But
no, I get it. I always thought that like if ECW had never gone under, and unfortunately, I could not watch ECW in its prime because it was too violent, mostly. But I always thought that if it had not gone over, the direction that it was going to go in was kind of a Ring of Honor direction, because you had like Rob Van Dam, you had Jerry Lynn, you had Just Incredible. Love that name. That's Just Incredible.
Amazing, bro. I love that they had Just Incredible and Mike Awesome on the roster at the same exact time. And that to me is crazy, because you think about it, you could have had a tag team ready to go. They would be called Incredibly Awesome.
Yep.
Incredibly Awesome, dude. Come on, that's money.
They were like starting to transition. Like, I mean, they were still doing the hardcore stuff, but they were really starting to be known for like good in ring. So I think that's the direction they would have gone into eventually.
100%. And that's what I was kind of getting at. Yeah. That's what I was sorry to cut you off. That's what I was trying to get at, is we had right around the corner, you had Bryan Danielson, you had Brian Kendrick, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. You had this entire era and crop of young talent who was influenced by the previous generation. Guys like Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Randy Savage, Kurt Hennig, all these dudes influenced this new generation of wrestlers who was about to become professional wrestlers. They were training at this time. They were very early in their career. And also at the same time, we cannot forget this more rose out of the ashes of WCW was TNA. So we had Ring of Honor and TNA at pretty much in the same year, 2002. They both started their ascension at the same time. And TNA, they had guys like AJ Styles. And also Ring of Honor had AJ Styles too. These wrestlers went to both promotions at the time. It was really a fascinating thing. And ECW absolutely would have went that direction. But here we go. The ROH World Television title match has been officially announced for the upcoming ROH 19th anniversary show. Ring of Honor announced today that ROH TV champion Dragon Lee will defend his title against Tracy Williams. Bro, these names mean absolutely nothing to me. I know Dragon Lee is pretty awesome. I don't know who Tracy Williams is, but whatever. Lee also holds the ROH World Tag Team titles with Kenny King, but there's no word yet on who they will be defending against at the 19th anniversary show. I do know who Kenny King is, yada, yada, yada. And here's the card, brother. Jay Lethal is going for the... Ooh, man, they're putting Jay Lethal in the world title match once again. Then the match we just spoke about, and then we have a grudge match, EC3 versus Jay Briscoe. That seems to be pretty badass, man. Break this down, dude. Like, do you think Jay Lethal walks out champion?
No, probably not. They're pushing Roosh pretty hard. I don't think he's ever lost since he's been a Ring of Honor.
Wow.
Roosh is they push him pretty hard. He was affected by the pandemic. I think they just got him back recently. Tracy Williams is part of that foundation group with Grisham and Lethal, so should be a good match, but Dragon Lee is going to go over. What was the other match? EC3 and Jay Briscoe?
EC3 Jay Briscoe grudge match.
Yeah, I don't think EC3 is signed anywhere. I think he makes per appearance deals. He was in Impact for a brief period, then he dipped. Then he was in a ring. Now he's in Ring of Honor. I think he had COVID, and that was what happened. And now he's over it. EC3 is in great shape. Speaking of EC3, I want to mention something about Eli Drake. He's in NXT now.
LA Knight, brother. What is this thing?
LA Knight.
Is this what it is?
Yeah. He's LA Knight, and some people are confused. They're like, why is he LA Knight? Why is he LA Knight? I'll tell you why he's LA Knight. He's LA Knight because the dude's smart. He saw what happened to EC3. So just in case this run goes south, it's not that WWE mishandled Eli Drake. They mishandled LA Knight. The dude's smart. He's looking after himself. He's, that's what you got to do, So, but yeah, I love Eli. I don't agree with him being in NXT at all. He's a character for sure. So on paper, You would think he'd do well, but so is EC3, and they did fuck all of him. But
That's true, bro. That's true.
I love Eli. He's a character. Now, we were talking about this before, larger than life characters. Now, obviously, Eli is not larger than life, but look at him. He's got the sunglasses. He's got the jacket. He's loud. He's charismatic. He's confident. You see guys like Eli. It's sad, man. You see guys like Eli on Nitro or Raw every week, like in 96, 97, 98. But now, like, you barely see guys like that. Like, he's the minority. I think his promo was, I think he said he's the last of a dying breed. That's fucked up. That's fucked up.
Yeah, he can cut a promo. A lot of these other guys can't cut promos. Like, he's going against this Bronson Reed dude who I know that they really like. They gave him a new entrance. But at the end of the day, LA Knight, it needs to, there's a very strong possibility here, Toph, that Bronson Reed actually beats LA Knight. And they humble this dude really, really quickly. There's a very good possibility. Yeah,
they probably will. And a lot of people were defending how they used EC3. EC3 was different, because I said this before. EC3 pissed them off because even like on NXT, they didn't do shit with him. EC3 was different than like Adam Cole, Bobby Roode, Nakamura, because those dudes, they made their name elsewhere. They were stars elsewhere. And WWE hired them to be stars here, but WWE changed nothing about them. They just amplified them times 10 to make a WWE version of themselves. EC3 was already a WWE original. He came from the WWE system. They didn't know what to do with him. They fired him. Then he left, went to TNA, and actually became a bigger star there than he ever became in WWE, and that pissed them off.
How do you not know what to do with a guy like that? Like, you're right, LA Knight, EC3. It's smart by him to not allow them to use Eli Drake and also, dude, WWE has a bunch of these like Elis and Drakes, don't they? They don't have any Elis, I don't think, but they have Drake Maverick, and then they have a guy named James Drake, and then it's like, how many Drakes? So you couldn't have another Drake anyway. But right. A good thing they didn't just call him fucking Eli. Imagine they were like, you're Eli, and then he's got to be like Eli or something.
That's why I'm not mad at the LA Knight thing. He probably thought of all this stuff ahead of time, so he's looking out after his brand. He's looking after himself. But I wish him success. I hope it works. It's just the WWE track record is just not good. They prefer. It's almost as if like Triple H is going out of his way to not hire characters, to hire wrestlers, which is great and all, but like wrestlers don't put butts in seats, characters do.
It's 100% true, bro. 100% right. You're exactly right there. Next story, let's do one or two more. I don't know if the rest of the team is going to assemble. I doubt it. Highly unlikely. We do have a group chat where I'm always like, yo, dudes. Well, not always. I just started doing this again recently, but I'm like, yo, dudes. But I have done this a lot in the past. How many times in the past have I been like, yo, I'm going on Periscope Live. Come join the chat and shit. But like, I'm trying to get as many of our team members to join in on these episodes as possible, because I really want to make this PWP Nation's World of Wrestling Roundtable. I want that. I want a segment called World of Wrestling Roundtable, because I used to come from the show called a Wrestling Roundtable, and I want to kind of just be like, okay, we're World of Wrestling Roundtable. All right, do something. So I want to do a little bit of that. I want a segment where we got the whole team here, but we have more news stories to get to before we get out of here tonight. Simple, basic stuff today in the news. Where are we going next? I had no real idea. We've got a tryout for Terry Bam Bam Gordy's daughter. That's pretty dope. Mick Foley kissing Finn Balor's ass as hard as he possibly could on Twitter. Holy crap, dude. He just literally was right up Finn Balor's ass like I've never seen before. Mick Foley is the woke hardcore legend of the IWC. We got Jake Roberts. Wish you could do more in AEW. Not ruling out a final match. Dude, I gotta read this. Bro, I gotta read this. Here we go. WWE Hall of Famer and current AEW manager Jake the Snake Roberts. And look at this site getting 1K views on the story. Jake the Snake Roberts was the latest guest on the Wrestling with Brandon Walker show. Who was the Wrestling? See, anybody. He might as well be the Braden Walker show. Anybody can have a show.
He
Let's
should have
crush
called
this.
that. He should have called himself that.
He should have called himself Braden Walker. I am the original Braden Walker. To discuss his role in AEW, blah, blah, blah. How much AEW takes care of the roster. He commends them for that. Wanting one more match is still difficult. This is Jake the Snake Roberts talking. I still want to do more, and I haven't gotten it through my thick skull that I'm 65. Every now and then, I'll start bubbling. You've got a couple of matches left. I'm still not ruling it out. It pissed me off to watch Tully Blanchard wrestle. I wanted to jump him when he came to the back, but he was out there signing autographs. I was so proud of him. That's amazing, dude. That is absolutely awesome. Thanks to Fightful for drafting that story for Wrestling Headlines. But that was pretty dope, man. I would love to see Jake do something. I would like to see him do something with Sting, bro. Coal Miner's Glove Part 2, brother. What do you think about that? Oh, hold on. We got a run-in, Toph. We got a run-in. Can you see who the run-in is, or is this still you cannot see it?
I see an ad.
Oh. No, we actually have a run-in on the show, and here he is. We've got JCD in the house.
Oh, okay, cool.
There he is. I didn't know if you could see who I could add to the screen, but we got JCD. What's up, John?
Good. What's up? We're about to do what's known in the business as a run-in.
Yes, exactly. And your audio sucks, by the way. But let's. What's up, dude? How you doing? What are you up to tonight?
Got everyone home. We're gonna barbecue in a little bit, and is what it is.
Thanks for jumping on, bro. I appreciate it. We've got actually a comment, and it's our boy from Inside Wrestling. Nathaniel says, NXT is the only wrestling company where you get called up to the main roster and is looked at as a demotion, not a promotion. Bro, I think their bank accounts differ. Disagree, I should say. Bank accounts absolutely disagree with that statement. But I believe Nate is just specifically talking about the way wrestlers are handled and booked. There's actually been a lot of talk today about the way Aleister Black, Keith Lee, and other NXT stars have been booked on the main roster. They've kind of disappeared in a a ways. Like, where's Keith Lee? Where's Aleister Black? Where are these wrestlers? What's going to happen?
I think he's having some what do they call that? The after effects from having COVID. I know that's the story going around with Lee. As far as Black and Andrade goes, I thought Andrade had surgery at one point, they said, and then supposedly Lee was about to, not Lee, Black was supposed to re-debut on SmackDown, and nothing ever came of it.
Okay. All right. So hopefully, they do something with these guys, because that was definitely a point in a lot of Twitter threads today is, where are these guys? What are they doing? We also have backstage update on the WrestleMania 37 card. I don't really care about that right now. Tony Khan reveals more matches for AEW Elevation. Who cares, right? Rest in peace to Becky Lynch's father. R.I.P. R.I.P. Becky Lynch's father. That sucks. We got Daniels recalling some memories. Hey, Renee Paquette. I love Renee Young, dude. I think Renee Young is awesome. She is now an American citizen. That's a beautiful thing. I think Renee Young rules. I think we can all agree on that. We already talked about that. International signings. Who are these international signings? I don't really keep up with the wrestling news, so this is really cool every once in a while. And again, from Fightful. Is Fightful the only wrestling news site out there? Are there any other wrestling news sites?
No,
I feel like it is.
They're just really fast reporting first. That's really all it is.
I feel like Johnson and PW Insider have kind of died out, which is a shame because Mike's a great guy.
Yeah, what the hell, dude? I don't see PW Insider at all on these sites, but here we go. It was reported today by Fightful Select, behind the paywall, ladies and gentlemen, that some long-signed wrestlers will finally be making the trip to the United States this week at the Performance Center, and nothing else. So that's clickbaity. Do you know who any of these people are? I don't know who they are.
If I had to guess, probably what's his name? Did the promo in NXT this week. The Jordan dude might be one. Jordan Devlin is his name. He might be one of them. So
yeah, that makes sense. He did do a promo last night.
Yeah,
he did promo it up. That makes sense. Let's continue here. See what else we got in the news. I like this site because I've been going to this site. It's also called lordsofpain.net. I've been going to this site since I was a little kid. So let's see what the original plans were for the NXT women's tag team. We spoke about last week on the show about what they were doing with these women's tag team titles after last week's schmaz ending. And WWE officials reportedly wanted to debut the new NXT women's tag team titles a while back. Last night's episode, blah, blah, blah. It was reported on the Wrestling Observer that WWE came up with the idea for NXT women's tag team titles a while ago. Why are you repeating yourself? The original idea was for the Women's Dusty Classic to receive the titles. No word yet on why the Women's Dusty Classic was rushed. Blah, blah, blah. This is a pretty much a nothing story here. There's also no word yet on what WWE has planned for Moon and Blackheart in their first title reign, but it looks like they might be defending against Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. It seemed to me like they were like, okay,
get it right, Indy Loomis.
Indy. Wait, what? What are you talking about? Are they banging?
No, that's the storyline that, while the Garganos are scared of Dexter Loomis, Indy is basically saying she's in love with him.
Oh,
there was a thing on NXT 2 weeks ago where she drew a picture Mrs. Indy wrestling Loomis or something.
Oh, that's epic. I missed that completely.
And
that's awesome.
When they were doing the therapy last week, Gargano was he's into chloroform and he likes to choke people. And you got to look at Indy's facial expression. She's like, oh.
Oh, she's into it. Yeah, she's into it. I remember that. Yeah. She's all into it. I remember that now. I'm starting to remember it. That's awesome. Yeah, dude, that's what I was talking about with Toph before, John, is there's a clear difference in the storytelling between NXT and AEW, where AEW seems to have this long-term outlook on where they're going, and they kind of know, okay, we've got Hangman. Adam Page is going to be the world champion at some point in the future. We love Jungle Boy. We know he's going to be a champion some point in the future. They know what they're doing. Whereas NXT comes off a little bit different, where they never know whether they're going to lose guys. I think AEW kind of is.
I think that's part of the problem. That's exactly what you said. It's one thing for Triple H and Shawn to say, okay, listen, let's say potentially the next 6 months we're going to do A, B, and C. But in month 1.5, here could come Vince and say, I want this one, that one, and that one. I don't care what you have planned. And that's it. NXT, goes back to almost square one with it, and that's the problem with it. I think that's one of the big things. And you know what? I used to think Chris Toph was being a little whatever with it, but thinking about it today, I've come along to his way of thinking. Part of the problem with the ratings with NXT is it's hard to get invested long-term into guys. Think about in the year and a half that this has gone on. I mean, sure, Cole's been the constant, but how many guys have been through there that have gone already? Lee, Riddle, Dream for different circumstances. But you've had this big barrage of guys that just when it seems like you get really built into, and it's all right, this is going to be the reason why I tune in every week. Because I want to see Lee Dijokovic 3. Right. And then they're gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wasn't on board with that Wade thing. I'll be honest, but you know what? He said it today, and I started thinking about it a little. I'm like, you know what, son of a bitch, there's something to it there.
The one that really woke up a lot of fans was I think the one that specifically woke me up, because when this thing started, when AEW and NXT started, I was trying to be fair, because the thing I did was, okay, on the debut episode, I watched AEW first. And then the week after, I watched NXT. So it's each show, each week, okay, I'm going to watch AEW this week. I'm going to watch NXT this week. And I flip-flopped, and I went back and forth, because I was trying to contribute equally and evenly to both shows. The one where I think really made me go I think I'm done was the Keith Lee stuff. Mm-hmm. Because with Lee, okay, this is the thing about Triple H. And I'm not attacking him. When you watch NXT, sometimes you can tell okay, they got plans for this guy. And other times you can tell that there's not necessarily plans per se, but there's no long-term plans. There was a period where Keith was there and he wasn't hurt, and just for whatever reason, they just weren't really using him. And then it was Gargano got hurt, Dream got hurt, and it was a lot of guys were hurt.
You know what Keith Lee was in the beginning? I didn't mean to cut you off, Chris, but you know what Keith Lee was in the beginning? It seems like every time there's a big NXT signing spree, somebody gets lost in the mix. We've seen it happen, a million times. Like when AJ Nakamura, Gallows and Anderson, I know those guys didn't go to NXT, but Aries came in right before that. And for a while, Aries got lost in the shuffle. Even take it back to 2000. You get Taz, but then 2 weeks later, you've got the Radicals. Taz is an afterthought. They're notorious. When they bring in a boatload of talent all at once, somebody gets lost in the shuffle. And I think that's what happened with Lee at that time, because you had Ricochet, you had EC3, then you had all these other guys coming in, and Ciampa became a main eventer, and Gargano, and excuse me, and this one and that one, and it was like, oh, we have Keith Lee still? And then once they realized they had him, it was like, all right, let's go.
Right.
And once these matches started getting talked about, especially the Lee Dijokovic matches, it was like, okay, Keith Lee's just not a big, bulky guy. This guy can go and he can do things. And I honestly think that if Lee wasn't going up to the main roster the night after SummerSlam, I think Lee Cross would have been the type of feud that NXT could have done a couple of months of shows around before finally concluding. Like, you could have done like a double count out, a double knockout. They brawl everywhere. And then finally you would have had to bring – I said it to somebody. I think it was Todd. I said, if you ever want to bring Hell in the Cell to NXT, Lee Cross could have been that feud to do it with.
I saw
John,
someone even
real quick. Let me jump in. Okay. Who the fuck is Todd, bro? Who the fuck is Todd? All right, go for it. You go ahead, Toph.
Yeah, I saw some folks that even suggested the Big Show Lesnar finish, where Lee would superplex like Cross into the middle of the ring, and it would like explode or implode, causing like a non-finish, which would have ordinarily pissed people off. But
do we blame the explosion on Impact?
Dude, that was great. Yo, Kenny Omega last night was like, 69 me down. 69 me down. I was dying, bro. I was laughing my ass off. That was so good.
I'll tell you right now real quick, because I do have to hop off. My kids keep coming up, and I don't want them
you
to
son of a...
Hey,
right,
wait a minute.
It happens.
I got to tell you, I feel like nobody in that company, short of Eddie Kingston, and that includes Moxley, and that includes Omega, and it includes Callis, nobody in that company could have saved that besides Eddie Kingston. I think Eddie was the perfect guy. He brought it home with the whole jail stuff, this and that. I think if Moxley would have cut a promo, or Kenny would have cut a promo saying, I fooled you, 5 stars, I think it would have been terrible, But I think the fact that Eddie did what he did prior made this all work. And I think everybody in AEW needs to realize, you can talk about Cody, you can talk about Kenny, the Bucks, Moxley, Jericho, but you know what? The guy who might be the real MVP and the real anchor of that locker room and that roster, who doesn't have a fancy title attached to his name, is Eddie fucking Kingston.
Woo! I love it, bro. That's a good way to end your segment for the night. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah.
Hey, get a podcast mic, dude. They're mad cheap. Get a podcast mic. All right, cool. All right. There you go. There's John. There, he's out of here. I told him to get a damn podcast mic because his audio sucks. Your audio is perfect because you have a gaming headset or whatever that is. That's a dope headset, bro. Is that a gaming headset?
Yeah, it's for the PlayStation. Like, it's pretty comfortable. Fits just good. You can also press this button here to mute it at any time. So I got tired of using the cheap one I had, so just got a new one for Christmas. It was on sale. You know how the Black Friday sales are.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. I always buy something dope on Black Friday. But lately I've been diving deep into the wrestling card game. And actually, I'm going to share this story with you real quick. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about an item that I just purchased that you're probably going to actually mark out over a little bit. I'm going to show it to you in just a minute. I'm going to have to get up. But let's talk a little bit about this story that just hit a couple of minutes ago. It is Pat McAfee talks possibly one day working WrestleMania. The goal would be to have something that people remember as epic. So here's one thing that's interesting. One of the most well-known WrestleMania main events of all time, even though it's at probably the worst WrestleMania, is Lawrence Taylor versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Most wrestling fans are aware of that match. Right now, it's crazy. The wrestling card game, the memorabilia game is nuts. WWE printed a couple of Lawrence Taylor wrestling cards back in 1995, and the freaking value on them have been exploding recently. I need to get myself one before I get lost in the shuffle and I miss out on the big, explosion of value there. But Pat McAfee might be the next one to do it. Former NFL superstar Pat McAfee was a recent guest on 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt. Once again, who is Kyle Brandt? I got to find out who these podcasters are. And how do I become one of these guys that gets a guy like McAfee? We'll make it happen. McAfee, who wrestled at last year's NXT TakeOver 30 and TakeOver War Games, admits that would be a milestone for his career, but doesn't think he is currently tough enough to do it. And McAfee says, that'd be dope and pretty cool. Now that I've gotten the chance to do it, I have so much respect for everybody that has ever wrestled. The amount of work and buy-in you have to be a successful wrestler, especially in WWE and WrestleMania, that's a lot. The goal would be to have something that people remember as epic, but I'm not 100% sure I'm tough enough to do something that would result in a WrestleMania run or my schedule would allow it. That would obviously be insane if I was at WrestleMania. So McAfee, he's very humble in his approach to this topic. Pretty cool. I think he was one of the better, and you mentioned it before, so it's kind of relevant how these celebrities are getting involved in wrestling and trying to hopefully bring their audience over. Doesn't seem like it really worked with Pat McAfee when it comes to his time with NXT.
I think what CM Punk said pissed him off. I mentioned that a few weeks ago. I don't know if you saw the conversation between me and John. We were talking about that in a private chat. Punk had mentioned something on Twitter, and it was a compliment, but I think I think somebody noticed it, and it probably rubbed people the wrong way. And maybe this hasn't to do with anything. Punk said that he thought that Pat McAfee outshined the roster. He said that Pat McAfee was a better promo than anybody else on NXT, and he said that that the wrestlers, if he was a wrestler there, he would feel embarrassed. And basically said that Pat McAfee was gaining more heat than any of the full-time wrestlers there. But the thing that Punk said that I think, and this could be the biggest reach of all, because I know that you notice stuff like this, Jay. I know like you're really super into this. He said, Punk said that Pat buried Adam Cole. And then fans were like, what are you talking about? How did Pat bury Adam Cole? And then Punk was like, everyone knows how good Adam Cole is, but everyone knows that Adam Cole has the one glaring weakness. And the one glaring weakness is that, his size, he's not very tall. And if you remember, Pat McAfee referred to Adam Cole as an angry elf, which is funny, but like it's accurate, and so Punk was like, why would you do that? Like, why would you point out the obvious, right? And I don't know if you've noticed this or not, Jay, but when you can, check out NXT. I'm seeing it now. Ever since Punk made that comment, like ever since he referenced the comment that Pat said, every time Adam Cole appears on NXT, the camera is zoomed in. I don't know if you noticed this. It's zoomed in. It's zoomed out with everyone else, but it's zoomed in with him. It's like they're trying to make you not realize how short he really is. It's like now I can't unsee it. Like go on YouTube or just whatever. I don't know, like if you DVR it or like what your cable provider is. Look at NXT. Every promo is like a camera zoomed out, but for Adam Cole, it's zoomed in every time. And now I can't unsee it. And it's like maybe that's why they got rid of him. Because I don't know, because when a guy is short, he's short. You don't have to, why bring up the fact that he's short? And that's what Punk was trying to say, I guess. Like, why why literally say on live television, you're an angry elf, you're an angry elf. I don't know, but Pat McAfee's cool. He's cool. And I did think that he did a good job, but I don't think he was a name that a casual person would know. I didn't know who he was, admittedly. I know he's big in the football world. I don't follow football like that. He's a name. I just don't think he's the kind of name that a casual would know. To answer your question, Jay, I missed this point. This is a weakness that both AEW and NXT have. The feeling I get, I had this feeling from day one. I get the feeling that both AEW and NXT are catering to wrestling fans, and they're okay with that. I get the feeling sometimes they're not trying to branch out. I feel like that they don't want to branch out into the bigger bubble, but you should. Because that's how you get bigger, and that's how you get more ratings, and that's how you make more money. But that's the impression I get. The impression I get is that they cater to the wrestling fan, and they're content with that. That's the feeling I've had since 2019, since all this has begun.
Yeah, totally. So we're going to wrap the show up, and that was a great point. And I think, Pat McAfee's reaching. He's probably not going to be at WrestleMania anytime soon. You're right. He's not that big of a star. I mean, whatever. He's got a podcast. He's a former punter. He's not Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor was a freaking linebacker who was one of the greatest football players of all time. Okay. One of the greatest defensive powerhouses of all time. So not only was he believable, like Kevin Green or some of these other wrestlers football players who went into the wrestling ring, he was also just an unbelievable player. He's one of the best. But I want to show you this, and then we'll split. I bought this for a lot of money, but I feel like it's a good deal because what's inside it is super valuable. This is a 1993 WCW Collector's Edition magazine, yearbook magazine. Now, let me tell you the significance of this. Inside this magazine, Toph, is the first Steve Austin trading card. Maybe not the first, but one of the first, like in the first 3 or 4.
Wait, do you have yours unopened?
Yeah, this is sealed, dude.
Okay.
Sealed inside. I bought this online. It might have been open before. It may have been open, but whoever had it before me took super good care of it and sold it to me at a reasonable price. So I'm happy about that. And it was packed in like the best shipping ever. But not only the first Steve Austin, but the first Cactus Jack is in here. Also an early Ron Simmons, and you see that cover. It looks beautiful. Ricky Steamboat, Dustin. We got Missy Hyatt, Sting. We got Rick Rude. We got we got Medusa. We got the Barbarian. We got Brian freaking Pillman. Look at that dude. Brian Pillman, young ass Brian Pillman, and Barry Windham. Just an awesome book. Now I'm on the fence though. I'm on the fence because that's Steve Austin and that Cactus Jack. They're on a sheet that is attached to the magazine with perforations. Okay. Now the magazine is from 1993. Do I risk opening that magazine, unperforating those cards and sending them in to get graded and then having a higher resale value than just the magazine itself?
I wouldn't open it.
Tough call.
I wouldn't open it. 93 was a great year, by the way, for WCW. Great year. I still got my WCW 1993 Starrcade VHS tape, which I'll find it and bring it next time. But it's in the VHS box thing, unopened. I never took it out. I never opened it because I got a DVD for it as well. It's like a Starrcade. I think it's like a best of Starrcade DVD collection. Something. I got it a long time ago. So
that's awesome, bro. That thing's probably a relic. It's probably got its value to it too. But let's wrap this thing up. Episode 3 of World of Wrestling. Thanks, Toph. It was a great show. I enjoyed it.
Oh, no problem, man. See you next time.
Every Thursday, everybody. Every single Thursday. 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Maybe we'll change the time from time to time, but I want to go live right here on YouTube with World of Wrestling. And I'm announcing right now that we are doing a giveaway. Okay. I'm going to be giving away a bunch of swag that I have, wrestling related stuff, like a big package. And you're going to be able to, a big package. No, pause on that one. But I'm going to be giving away a nice prize pack from my own personal collection to one person. And you will find out about that on our Twitter page at PWP Nation this Monday night before Raw. So check out our Twitter page at PWP Nation this Monday night before Raw for the announcement on our giveaway and what you have to do to qualify for that giveaway. For Toph, my name is Jay. We're out of here. We'll see you next week on World of Wrestling.
Later.